So, thank you for joining us today for this webinar related to the IEEPA tariff refunds. There's been a lot of movement in the past few days. Obviously, today, the goal of the webinar will be to explain how you can recover the overpaid duties with the IEEPA tariff. We will focus solely on the IEEPA tariff opportunity. Also, how can you maximize the cross-border saving? And this webinar will be presented by Leighton, also in partnership with Descartes Group. So we will show you the agenda and we'll start right away. So our webinar host, you have myself, Jean-Daniel Vermette. Everybody calls me GD. So I'm the senior sales manager and head of custom duty now for Canada and US at Leighton. And also we have Mudavir Tariq, who's a manager in custom trade compliance consulting group at Descartes. And director of business development and recovery solution at Descartes, we have Mr. Ted Rowe, who will also be speaking today. This is the agenda. So this is the point that we'll cover today. We want to talk about, obviously, most of you probably know what are the IEEPA tariffs. We'll still give you a little summary about that. How can you submit? What is the ACE portal? Some of you might be registered already on the ACE portal. Some of you might heard the name but don't know exactly what to do. We'll cover some of the topics about the ACE portal. Also, what are the key aspects of the IEEPA refund process? That's really important to know. And obviously, how can our team, Leighton and Descartes, can help you maximize those refunds. And obviously, at the end, the goal of the webinar, this is a pretty straightforward process. So the goal, this should be around 30 minutes presentation. But also the goal of the webinar is definitely to have some Q&A at the end. So to answer all the questions you guys might have. We also have some questions already prepared that we can answer that we've seen from our client. Already they're asking us some questions. Some of them are coming more often than the others. So we'll be making sure to cover those at the end. All right, Ted?
Thank you, JD. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for having us. As everyone knows, over the last year, it's been a bit of an interesting time with navigating current tariffs that were put in place by the administration. The IEEPA tariffs, otherwise known as the International Emergency Economics Power Act, were implemented last year, originally announced beginning of February of 2025, put off for a while, put off for 30 days, and were enacted in March of 2025, targeting specifically China and Canada and Mexico. As you may know, the IEEPA tariffs or IEEPA is declared under national emergencies. So it was seen as a way for the administration to put on these tariffs in a quick, easy fashion. However, this was, as we know, just recently deemed illegal by the Supreme Court of the United States, which has prompted a refund process. Now, the thing too, I like to state in this is all new. IEEPA tariffs have been around since the 70s, rarely enacted, never refunded. So this has been a learning experience for importers, brokers, consultants, lawyers, politicians for that matter. So it's been a learning on the fly, if you will, process with a lot of information coming out. As of this past week, beginning of this week, the government provided a mechanism for importers who are affected by IEEPA tariffs to recover those. If you'd want to move to the next slide, JD. So, as I mentioned, the Supreme Court ruled these tariffs illegal. The next phase of that was to figure out, well, how are these going to be processed as refunds? And there was a lot of speculation once they were deemed illegal. Would they refund them? If so, would they have to file post-summary corrections or protests and file these individually, which would be very tough for numerous importers. So what they've done is created a whole new system in which you can file, an importer can file a consolidated group of entries. So think of it as a mass adjustment as opposed to filing individual adjustments. They've called this the CAPE system, the Consolidated Administration and Processing of Entries, CAPE system. There's a lot of acronyms in this business. This is the exclusive mechanism for filing refunds that are imposed due to IEEPA. So what has to be done is it's essentially the CAPE system is essentially a download that has to be populated and then resubmitted to the CBP in a specific format that will take off the IEEPA tariffs that were charged and refund those back to the importer. Fortunately or unfortunately, everything has to be done through the ACE portal, which is the automated commercial environment that is available to every US importer. If you want to move to the next slide, JD. So as I mentioned, all entries are mandatory to be done through the CAPE, using the CAPE method or mechanism and through the ACE portal. It has to be done by either the importer of record or the customs broker who cleared the original entry. As such, I'll focus on the importer of record because there has been a number of questions of if the import duty or the IEEPA tariffs are passed on to you as a purchaser in the United States, are you eligible for those duty refunds? The quick and easy answer is no. It is specifically the refund is specifically granted to the importer of record. So the company who handled that importation legally, compliantly into the United States. Question will be, which a lot will come up, is what is ACE? As I mentioned, every refund has to be filed through the ACE portal. ACE is a system that was implemented by CBP back in the early teens, well, probably around 2010 or 11, where it was a connection or a portal per se that connected the importers to CBP. As of current status, prior to the IEEPA refunds being deemed illegal and having to file through ACE, less than 50% of US importers were actually set up on the ACE portal. For reference, it's a free service. It offers the importer complete visibility to your import data, export data, duties, submissions, rulings, etc. But again, I think it was only 43 to 45% of importers actually utilized the ACE portal. So obviously this has created a lot of demand for US importers to apply for this ACE portal in order to file the refunds for IEEPA. It is, as I mentioned there, it's a secure data site. It is a great tool for importers as far as pulling information, reports, and again, seeing your import activity in real time. Key aspects of IEEPA refund process. So as we talked about, again, the submission platform, refunds have to be pulled out of ACE and then resubmitted into ACE via the CAPE tool. So essentially what happens is we would pull the ASO 300 file from ACE, which is basically your import files for the last year. And it would pull and target every import that has been charged or tagged with IEEPA. This is then put in a different format into the CAPE format. So we're essentially creating an entry and a new entry, I guess is the best way to say it. We're taking your old data, creating a new entry and submitting that through ACE. We talked a bit about eligibility. Again, importers of records or authorized customs brokers, and you must have an ACE portal account. A key element of this too is your banking information must be set up in the ACE portal. The only way that the CBP is issuing refunds for IEEPA, and actually as of February for any government refunds, is through ACH. Traditionally, they've sent checks to the importer. Now it is mandatory that the importer be set up with their banking within ACE to receive that refund. The ideal thing is there's no guessing what a check is now that's showing up on your doorstep. You will see the refund automatically go into your bank account and be tagged as such as a refund from the CBP. Phase rollout. So when they talk about that, the current phase 1, which started on April 20th, so this Monday, is limited to only unliquidated entries. So anything within the roughly 314-day time frame from initial import. That is the general time frame for which an entry is liquidated. The government did give an additional 90 days from leeway, if you will. So for any, they gave 90 days, but they've suggested 80 days as the cutoff date. So they have the 10 days to review and process. But when I say that, any imports that have liquidated in that preceding 80 days of the 20th are able to be claimed as a non-liquidated entry in this initial phase of the IEEPA refund submissions. More complex issues, anti-dumping, countervailing duties, liquidated entries will be handled in phase 2, possibly a phase 3 for more complex entries. One thing they have said though is regardless if you have a liquidated entry, so an import that has been fully entered the United States and essentially the file closed on it, you will have access to a refund for those. So they're not going to be lost. They haven't announced. Traditionally, you would have to file a protest against that particular liquidated entry. We don't expect that. Again, this is all coming out. It's all new, but they're going to have another mechanism similar to CAPE that you'll be able to file a refund on liquidated entries. Just to go through the process flow here. We enter one thing that is needed in moving forward with IEEPA refunds. Again, being in ACE, you can assign a third-party provider with a user access or a proxy access, so that it can't change anything from a finance standpoint and you don't have that visibility within your ACE portal, that level. But what it can do, it allows a third party to pull the entry, first visibility to your entries, so your import entries, but also access to pull reports from the ACE portal. So what, in this case, the provider or ourselves would do, or Leighton, would pull that information, so your entries from the last year that would qualify under IEEPA. So we find those refunds that were tagged as having the tariff apply. As I mentioned before, we recreate those entries in the CAPE format, file them through the ACE portal. ACE, they're using some element of AI, is our understanding, for validating accuracy. And when I say validating accuracy, it's really going to make sure that original entry data matches up with the new entry data, so the recreated submission. As long as everything match, which is the goal, everything we do is grounded in trade compliance. So we want to make sure that everything is entered correctly, matched correctly. If it's not, what's going to happen, is our understanding, is that these claims will be rejected. So they will not fulfill. You'll have to resubmit. They review these for technical accuracy. They review the liquidation. So CBP reviews the dates. They review the entries. If the IEEPA tag is removed, what will happen? They will take that and as a essentially what would mirror an entry prior to IEEPA with no 35% tariff on it. And the CBP will issue refunds with a target of 45 days. We've had a lot of clients ask us, well, what's the reality of the refund timeline? Is it going to be that 45 days? Our expectation in the way that this is set up is that it's going to be very close to adhering to 45 days. In our experience in dealing with the government, that can vary. So again, this is a new process. It remains to be seen. But with the automated system, as long as the entries are filed correctly, accurately, goes through the random checks, that it will essentially trigger a refund within that 45-day period that, again, will be deposited to your bank account via ACH and visible through the ACE portal. Again, as I mentioned right there, no more paper checks. You have to make sure your banking information is entered in the ACE portal after setup. This just deals, as I mentioned, with protests. There's a bit of info that will be dealt with separately on liquidated entries. So there's a lot of information that will still come out on that next phase. How can our team help? We deal with a lot of, when I say everything from very large, sophisticated trade compliance groups and finance teams to import managers and small, medium-sized companies. And I say all of them, everybody's pulled in every direction. This is a very new process. Many of them need support in setting up the systems, understanding the systems, and submitting these refunds. Where we can help is first ensuring that your ACE portal is set up and accurate. You have all the necessary information, including your banking information, entered in ACE. It can be somewhat daunting getting the ACE portal set up, hence why many companies have not set it up in the past. But we want to make sure, I'm sure some of you have already, I've been utilizing the ACE portal for some time, or maybe you just set it up, but I'm sure there's some still maybe wondering what is ACE. So the first stage would be making sure you're set up in a position to receive a refund and apply for a refund, and again, get the information available to you to even make the refund request. With that, again, ensuring that we're identifying all entries to which you as an importer were subject to IEEPA tariffs. We want to make sure that we maximize the refund, make sure that we're not missing any that are in there, and again, ensure that it is all in compliance, which leads us to the third point there. Our team reviews all the import data. We look at the entries, we make sure that again, they're not subject to other countervailing duties or anything that would cause a rejection that wouldn't be included in this round or this phase that's going to slow the refund process. So we'll want to make sure that we do a review of the import transactions to ensure compliance. And then again, we'll take on the resubmission, so recreating those entries in the CAPE format that's required by CBP, making sure that it's done accurately, and then filing that as a bulk adjustment. So again, not having to go through and do individual adjustments. With that too, further to this slide, we'll support you in the follow-up on that, making sure that the duty is refunded to you. You will get notification within the ACE portal as soon as that is, one, it's submitted, but also when the refund is submitted to you. And ensure that again, you're getting the full refund back and leaving nothing on the table is, I guess, a good way to put it. JD?
All right. And obviously this is a webinar focused on the IEEPA, but if you also, maybe we can touch a point on that with you and MT, Ted, but also something we can be very good at is support you in the others duties that you're paying other than the IEEPA. If you've been paying before, there's other opportunity. Can you touch just a little point on that with the classification and?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
binding ruling.
absolutely. Yeah, IEEPA, again, the last year with the administration has thrown a bit of loop and throwing for a loop the trade community. There are many importers who weren't subject to duty prior to the IEEPA tariffs being put in place. So this has created a new environment, obviously new cost to importers. What our group does in partnership with Leighton is we specialize in duty recovery and duty optimization. So really looking at, in both the United States and Canada, looking at opportunities to one, get a refund, so secure a refund in both jurisdictions, and both are very different in the United States and Canada, but filing customs rulings, post-entry corrections, protests, again, binding rulings that we are able to petition the governments for. And so when I say that, some of you may be only subject to IEEPA this last year and not paid much duty in the past. However, other opportunities that may exist, and one, I think the value of having us review this too, and even having access to the ACE data, is we can come with other opportunities where that we recognize that there may be opportunities for duty reduction, duty refunds, duty mitigation strategies, again, all grounded in trade compliance. Everything we do is through a lens of compliance. But that is something we do definitely outside of just the IEEPA tariffs that we're focused on today. However, one of the benefits, as I mentioned, is maybe being able to offer you some further feedback on opportunities where we may be able to save you money in other areas too. Again, all contingency based as well.
Exactly. And if they are, that's focused solely on imports, but if they are also exporting, obviously there's always the duty drawback, as you can go back 5 years in the past. So perhaps people have not taken advantage of that. That's definitely something also to be on the lookout.
Yes,
all right.
Duty drawback, United States especially, is, we talk about, sorry, JD, just to chime in on that, because I should have mentioned, just as another stat, especially with the 301 tariffs as of the late teens, 2018, 19, a lot of companies, many companies who never did drawback before, and many still don't, started to explore that, and many still are with some of these new tariffs where drawback does apply. Essentially, drawback product came into the commerce of the United States, you pay duty on that initial entry, all or a portion of that product left the commerce of the United States. Let's say it came into distribution, it was re-exported. You can recoup 99% of the duty on the product that was, or the portion of the product that was re-exported out of the United States. There's a lot of different anomalies to it, but that's something that is available as well.
Thank you, Ted. Very insightful. So now we gonna move to the Q&A. So if we have some question, I just want to make sure that I see if I haven't missed any question in the chat. I think MTU answers some of those, right? So we have one question here. Does the bank account need to be in US, or could it be Canadian bank account, USD account?
That's a great question, and one that came up with us just recently with a non-resident importer from Canada, so non-resident importer, if you're familiar with that, it's a company, in this case based in Canada, but is a non-resident importer. They're registered as a business in the United States, but essentially no bricks and mortar. We were doing some drawback work for them in the United States, and as of February, again, they don't send any checks. So it is mandatory to have a US bank account. And for IEEPA in particular and ACH, it must be a USD account.
All right, next question is the one I was going to ask, so it's good that we got it in the chat. So what if I'm not set up on ACE? Can you assist or do it on behalf of the company?
Unfortunately, we can't do it on behalf of the company. You as the importer have to, it's incumbent on you to open the account. However, we can walk you through that. It's fairly simple. They've actually simplified it in the last few months in anticipation of a large influx of importers wanting to set up their ACE account. So the short answer is absolutely, we can help you. We can walk you through it. We just can't do it on your behalf.
Yeah, and that's why we include also in a percentage fee. So when we do business with you, that's also included. Stand it up on CAPE and ACE portal. That's part of the services that we offer and the added value that we bring. That one you answered it a little bit earlier, Ted, but we can touch on it again. And then, so are companies like UPS, DHL requesting refunds for the shipment they clear on behalf of the company?
So sorry, so is the freight company or
I guess
the courier?
Yeah, I guess the courier I guess sometimes it will be the importer of record, so they will be requesting the refunds.
So
cleared.
Yes, I think I understand it. Sorry, I think I understand it better. So some of the low value shipments or smaller shipments, or again, you could have your freight forwarder even acting as the importer of record to the United States. In that case, they are the importer of record, and they are the only, even though you are the ultimate consignee of the import, them as the importer of record, it is incumbent on them to apply for any IEEPA refunds. And essentially that would be something that an arrangement you'd have to work out with them representing you as the importer of record.
So they will have to make an arrangement with them personally to say, hey, can you go with the refund, and then can that be given back to us after, right?
Correct.
Because we've seen a lot of customer, sometimes it's the original manufacturer having to pay the duties, but they transfer the duties directly to the distributor, and the distributor has to transfer the duties sometimes to the consumer, right? So as we see sometimes, it's consumer, as they are going on there and hearing about this, they might go to the distributor and asking, hey, can I get the duties back that you charged me on the goods that you sold to me? But the distributor is actually going to have to go back to the original manufacturer to get back that duty. So
it's created a lot of issues in that capacity. And when I say that, even in the retail sector, for example, I mean, you might have heard of the situation with Costco. This is public knowledge. Costco was one of the primary companies that filed the lawsuit against the government that went to the Supreme Court on IEEPA tariffs. They were refunded, obviously, as of this week, they're being refunded a significant amount based on their imports over the last year. And I understand now there's a class action lawsuit that from just the customers in this case saying, well, hey, you raised your price due to the IEEPA tariffs. Now you're getting a refund. We as the consumer want that back. Where that will go, I don't know. But you're absolutely right, JD. That's a large level, but on a smaller level, there is the opportunity for an importer, the consignee, to work out with the importer of record that they work with, some kind of a share of the IEEPA refunds too.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of moving parts right now, and with this new process, and I'm sure you'll hear a lot more stories come up.
Yeah, definitely. And MT, thank you. You're doing a great job to answering all those questions. I just want to make sure also we get them out there for everybody who's listening, or we'll look at the recording after. Very quickly, also, we have, if there's a 180-day limitation, what about the imports outside of the 180 days? Between, that will be April 5th and...
Yeah, anything that is not liquidated and and that was liquidated within the past 80 days of the CAPE declaration is accepted in phase one. So anything that it doesn't fall into those two categories is not accepted. So at liquidated entries, CBP will provide guidance on that.
Awesome. We have a lot of questions, so we'll try to move in quickly as we have about 12 minutes left. Are the refunds contingent on the imports becoming liquidated, or will the refunds happen before the entry is liquidated?
Yeah, hold on. I think I answered that, JD. So
Yeah.
it's within the 90 days of filing the CAPE declaration. It's not the liquidation. It's within 90 days of filing the CAPE declaration. So I provided a detailed answer for that one as well.
Oh,
does everyone have access to visibility to those answers? If
I think so, yes. I think they will stay in the chat.
Okay.
Some people say they have not been able to access the ACE after many hours of trying. After we have a comment, we have paid custom directly to U.S. Custom, but all our reports are coming from the carriers before we pay them. Same with FedEx and UPS. So I guess will they also be able to proceed with the refund, or I guess will be the same as
they
well?
have to initiate it. The importers have to initiate it. It's not going to be automatic from the brokers, right? So they have to go in and initiate it, and that's where we can help them do that, right? But it's not going to be anything automatic from their brokers that they will do. That's not what we see. So they have to identify and then initiate.
Yeah, it has to be, as MTs, it has to be done, initiated by the importer of record. We have heard recently, and well, we've experienced it with the ACE portal, and this may be, again, something to do with the volume of access this week, that importers are trying to access their ACE account and getting an error message. So if that is the case, there should be, in the ACE portal, when you're trying to log on, there is a service contact. So you want to reach out to the ACE group at CBP, and they're saying they're usually turning it around within a week's time to reset things. But you also would want to try periodically to see if the glitch has been updated. But do reach out to the ACE help desk, and they should be able to reset things for you.
Yeah, I see, guys. We're getting a lot of questions about that as custom broker clearing the goods and everything, and then the people are pretty confused if they are the one who need to initiate that, or they have to ask directly FedEx and UPS and all those big firms to actually initiate the process.
Yeah, no, no broker, or especially when you get into the big courier companies / brokers, your FedEx, UPS, they're not going to initiate anything without notice, and it probably depends even on the value of the amounts too, because this is all, this is all policy driven. It wasn't, say, a mistake on the part of the importer or a broker. So there is costs associated with that through even the customs brokers or these or the freight companies. So, but you as the importer are the one that would have to engage that with your forwarder or your broker courier company. They just won't automatically issue the refunds or file for them.
And we have one asking about a condition for services. Is there any upfront charge or percentage of the refund? I mean, I can answer that also. So no, there's no upfront charge for us. There's no financial risk. So yes, it's only a percentage of the refund. So we get paid when you get paid. And if we're not successful in anything, or you don't qualify for the refund, then there's no charge. And as Ted mentioned also earlier, we also do other analysis for other opportunity of refund if you paid other tariff on import or export other than the IEEPA. So that's also included in the review. And also we've had a question about the aluminum and steel if they were excluded of the IEEPA refund.
MT, do you want to address the 232s? They
no 230. I think yes, they're the steel and aluminum. They're not part of this.
No. Yeah, the 232 the 232 tariffs are a very specific tariff related to where an actual investigation has to happen. It is very, again, specific to individual products, whereas IEEPA is signed as an emergency measure against basically a country or an exporter. So, but yes, 232s were not included in the IEEPA tariffs.
Another one we got is that we have been exporting to the US from Canada, but paying the duties from our US customers. Can we get the refund, or should the broker be doing this?
Well, if they're the importer of record in the US, if the importer of record in the US has to initiate the process.
Yeah. Now that question would be, and that we can follow up after too, would be when I talked about a non-resident importer before. If you are sending product from Canada to the United States, if you are the receiving that, or you're the importer in the United States, you can request the refunds if you're set up as a business there as an importer. However, if I understand it correctly, if you're shipping this directly to, let's say a customer in the United States from Canada, and they're paying the duty, or even if you are paying the duty on their behalf, they are still the importer of record, and they are the one that would have to request the duty back.
And in order to get an ACE account, you need to know who the contact is on the 5106. What if you don't know who it is because it was done years ago?
Yeah, in that case, this has to be done through the ACE team at CBP. So it is going to be a process, because they would need some verification to identify, okay, who was the original party, right? So we can assist with that as well.
Yeah.
And usually, but it would have to be done through the CBP, because they will have to match up the data, right? And if that data is not accurate within who registered, when their account was registered versus ACE, when his ACE is being registered, then yeah, they may reject the application. And so it's better to just get that information sorted out before applying for ACE.
Yeah, we've had that where, again, the people are the original registry person might not be even around anymore, but as long as you have the information, the setup, the original corporate information, and we've had some customers who have to go through, back to their outside counsel, or obviously through their finance group to figure out, get all that information. So the more information you have to be able to enter that in the ACE setup is better.
One thing I get a lot also when I do meetings and when I meet some people, and I've seen that in the chat, but I think it's good that we answer that one out loud. Is there a direct report on ACE? People want to know sometimes, they don't have the visibility on how much IEEPA tariff they've paid. So they want to know, like, where they can go and see that document to see how much IEEPA tariff they've paid on the ACE portal. Yeah,
there's reporting you can run from ACE portal, and you just have to navigate and find those reports.
So you can access this directly to the ACE portal.
Yes, exactly.
Just about pulling a report, which we can also help you guys do that. But
absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of the first steps is once we have the ACE access, is pulling that report. Forget even pulling up visibility wise, just looking to see, okay, what has been tagged or flagged for IEEPA? So what did you pay the IEEPA tariff on? Because then you can get a value on what you can expect for a refund, how much you paid over the last year, what's liquidated, what's not. And so you get a lot of visibility from that portal.
All right, just last one, I think, before we wrap up. So will the importer of record always be the custom house the shipment went through?
Sorry, can you repeat that, JD?
Will the
Will the what?
importer of record always be the custom house the shipment went through?
If I understand it right, the importer of record, it will be the ultimate. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's not necessarily the ultimate. It's the importer of record is who legally imported that product. That's not usually the freight forwarder, the customs house, or the customs broker. They facilitate the entry into the United States. However, it's in 98% of the cases, it is and from a business standpoint, it is the purchasing company of that product who initiated the import, who has given all the information about the product, the value, etc. They're the legal importer. So that is your importer of record. Whereas if you're referring to, say, your customs house, that would likely be the broker. Or again, in brokerage, this is where it gets confusing with brokers, is sometimes they are part of the freight forwarding group. They get kind of convoluted in between the freight and the customs broker, but they facilitate the entry into the United States. Whereas the importer of record is usually the one that is ultimately receiving the import or the consignee. There are cases, not to confuse it, where, like we talked about before, where UPS, for use it as an example, they will act as the importer of record on behalf of maybe a smaller importer or a direct-to-consumer purchaser. And again, in that case, even the original purchaser or consignee is not the importer of record. In that case, it's the broker, in which they would have to file. Technically, they paid the IEEPA tariffs, and they would be the one that's eligible. So, but again, it's worth asking those questions, and even engaging with the latent team too, and ourselves, to figure out. The first thing is to figure out, are you eligible for the refund? And then if you are, then what are next steps, as we talked about, and we'd go through those.
Exactly. So I think there's a lot of confusion for what I can see, that people wondering, if I work with a custom broker, they feel like they're not really the importer of record, but mostly the broker will take care of the day-to-day filings and everything, but they still, most of the time, will be the importer of record. Unfortunately, we have about 5 seconds left. The link will disappear pretty soon. We thank you all for joining. If you want to meet with us, please book a meeting. We'll be more than happy.
Thank you, everyone.
Ted. Thank you, MT.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
You have a good day.
As well.